And, and Trump thrives at the whack-a-mole. He beats us with it. And for the next 10 months in any of our races, we need to stop. We need the next 10 months in Ohio to be about painting a picture for the people of Ohio. What does it look like if for the first time in 20 years, the people of Ohio see fit to give Democrats power? And not what does it look like in Washington. You know, what does it look like in our communities, our schools, our roads, our hospitals? What does that look like? And number, well, that was number 3. My name is Bryan Hambley. I am a leukemia doctor running for Secretary of State because I think our elections ought to be honest and fair. And I really don't believe that should be a minority opinion in Ohio. Now, I do get it's not the most common career path for a leukemia doctor. And so I'll take a couple minutes to describe why I'm doing this, and then we'd love to get your questions or comments. Well, my wife Jan and I have had a recurring conversation I imagine most of you have had with your loved ones. And it goes something like this. You know, what comes next in American democracy? After the hatred, the bitterness, a decade of failed leadership. What comes next? And what can all of us do to make it the best possible future where we bring more communities up, let fewer people in Ohio down? Now, I really am reminded that everybody cares about the health of themselves and their communities. So 2 years ago in the hospital where I work, I had a patient from far southern Ohio, a rural community, went to a local hospital with a nosebleed, just to be told she had leukemia. Had to come to Cincinnati 2 hours by ambulance, sirens blaring the whole way. And when I walked into her room on our leukemia ward, this woman was scared. But she was not just scared of the leukemia. She was scared that her new high deductible health plan, this woman was insured, but had a $10,000 out-of-pocket max. Was going to leave her with co-pays too high to afford Christmas presents for her kids. She was afraid that her insurance company was going to deny the chemo she needed because she had many friends where insurance had played this deny game. And she was afraid she'd spend the next 2 years driving back and forth to Cincinnati because all the local hospitals and clinics in her rural area had either been consolidated down or closed entirely. They couldn't provide at least some of the care she needed. But those were her fears the afternoon after she was diagnosed with leukemia that morning. And I thought to myself, this woman was not describing a Democratic fear or a Republican fear. She was just describing a human fear. To this day, I don't know how this woman votes. And when I think of, what have our gerrymandered Republican congresspeople in Ohio done to build a more secure future for that woman and the many Ohioans with chronic diseases like her? It's nothing. And it was a lot worse than nothing last July when every Republican member of Congress from Ohio voted for a budget that will cut 500,000 Ohioans from their health care. And they're so proud of it that they structured it where it won't kick in until 2 months after this fall's election. Which leaves all of us with the job of telling the story about the crisis that's just around the corner. Now, I think government has got to be where we do together what none of us can do alone. You might wonder, well, what in the world's that got to do with this Secretary of State? And the Secretary of State has 3 main jobs. Now, the first is the Secretary of State is supposed to draw fair districts when you go to vote for that congressperson. Number 2, the Secretary of State is supposed to write honest ballot language when you vote on any constitutional amendment. And number 3, the Secretary of State should make it easy and fair for every Ohio citizen to vote. No, that is the job. Anybody sign the anti-gerrymandering petition 2024? Yeah. So I don't have to tell everybody in this room. We have a Secretary of State in Ohio who for the last 7 years has doubled down on gerrymandering, disenfranchising millions of Ohioans. Democrats and Republicans alike get hurt by gerrymandering. The politicians might be helped, but Republican voters are hurt. We have a Secretary of State who now twice has used dishonest ballot language, putting his thumb on the scale so that he could get his way rather than just let Ohio voters get theirs. And we have a Secretary of State who every chance he gets makes it a little harder for people to vote, especially people he doesn't think are likely to vote for him. But that's what we have. But we've got to imagine a better Ohio. I mean, let's imagine Ohio where our districts are drawn, not by the politicians who sit in those seats, by an independent redistricting commission. This is not pie in the sky. Other states do it. Conservative states like Idaho do it. More progressive states like Michigan do it. And we should do it in Ohio. And if we win the Secretary of State race in 26, the way we should get there is put the independent commission back on the ballot, but with fair, honest ballot language that is controlled by the Secretary of State. There is good polling. We would win by 10 to 20 points. It would be a sea change for power in Ohio if we got it through. You should imagine Ohio where when you vote on any constitutional amendment, you can understand in plain English what you're voting on. And imagine Ohio where it's easy and fair for everybody to vote. So when people ask me, why does a leukemia doctor want to be Secretary of State? Say issue number one in Ohio for people trying to build a better healthcare system is a broken and gerrymandered democracy. It cuts us all off at the knees before we ever get started. Now I understand that Democrats have been in a dry spell in Ohio. I mean, you all know this. No Democrat has won this kind of race since Jennifer Bruner is a friend of mine in 20 years. It's been that long. And so people ask, what makes me think we could actually win a general election in Ohio? The Republicans are going to nominate the current treasurer, Robert Sprague. How are we going to match up with what the Republicans are offering people? Well, Robert Sprague has supported, bless you. Robert Sprague has supported gerrymandering at every corner. We would never support gerrymandering, ever. I think compromising on gerrymandering undermines all of us. Number two, Robert Sprague funds a lot of his campaigns with corporate PAC money. This is the dark money that you've heard about in politics. I made a commitment that we would not take any corporate PAC money during this campaign. Makes fundraising a little bit harder, but we've done the work to be successful outside of that. And number three, Robert Sprague has been in politics his entire adult life. I think people are tired of career politicians. Republicans have been let down by Republican politicians. Democrats, we've been let down by Democratic politicians. We need a less partisan Secretary of State. This is a rebuilding job for all of us in the Democratic Party. There is no power dynasty to take over. Now, I've been a part of rebuilding jobs. When I joined the University of Cincinnati as a leukemia doctor in 2020, we were the worst leukemia program in the entire country for survival. And a Chicago consultant had recommended shutting our program down. And we knew some of our patients would be okay getting to the Cleveland Clinic or getting to Chicago for care. But we would be leaving a lot of people in southern Ohio behind. So we gathered a team of nurses, nurse practitioners, social workers, dedicated to building a great leukemia program in Cincinnati. 6 years on, we've gone from the very worst program in the nation to last month was announced in the top 10% of leukemia programs in the entire country for survival. And while I got a lot of credit for this turnaround, the real story was that it was a team. And it was the nurses who didn't leave in 2020 when it was no fun to work at our cancer center. It was the social workers who never let insurance companies denying care stand between patients and the right chemo for their cancer. So when I think of that long shot in medicine and what lessons I learned to try to take into what is admittedly a long shot in politics, a Democrat one and statewide in Ohio, there's three key lessons. Number one, in any long shot you need a team, not just a person. There is no single person coming to save Ohio Democrats. We're going to have to do it together. Number two, in any uphill battle, you need a long-term vision of what you're fighting for when it gets hard. That is why I think we can't just be the party if not Trump. We ran that election. We lost it. What does it look like if we win? And to tell that in stories where the majority of Ohioans see themselves in the future that we're trying to build. And number three, you got to have work ethic. There is no replacing work ethic for a Democrat trying to win in Ohio. And that is why I was telling Chair Groupie earlier, this is our 263rd event since announcing. We've now been to 71 counties, and we announced 2 weeks ago that we have raised $835,000 more than any down-ballot Democrat in history at this point in a campaign. There is no replacing work ethic. My wife Jana is a trauma surgeon in Cincinnati. We have a 6 and an 8-year-old. We want them and every child in Ohio to have a democracy where they can use their moral imaginations to solve whatever the great problems of their time are. With that, I'm going to stop talking at you. Thank you for coming, and I'm happy to take any questions you have.